So I don't know if people remember just a short time ago when the pharmaceutical industries were in a panic. They were in a scramble because all this, vaccines were coming out. They were inventing new booster shots to try to control the spread of the new 18th variant, the XYZs, the 20B4, 5, whatever Android name they came up with it. I really don't know what they're calling it these days. I mean, first it was Greek alphabet, then they went to then they called it Omicron, then they I don't even know what they call it now. Um but they were trying to invest into more and more vaccines and vaccines and vaccines, but they realized that the demand was low. They realized the demand was low. And they were such in a panic that the CEO of Moderna, and we've shown this video before, but I want to show it again. The CEO of Moderna basically was on stage here. This is at the World Economic Forum, I do believe, where it almost seemed like he was bursting into tears about the fact that he has 30 million doses that had to be thrown away because demand was low. And we showed this before, and first of all, I couldn't believe that 30 million doses, and the reason that he's throwing it away is because countries didn't want to pay the CEO of Moderna that much amount of money for a vaccine that was leaky, which pretty much comes, scientifically proven that these vaccines were leaky. We pointed that out. Other channels have pointed that out. Even the scientific technology and the medical scientists that were a part of it knew that it was a leaky vaccine, but they, propagandize and manipulate to make us believe that, it was 100% effective. And Rachel Maddow will tell you it stops at transmission, so that's why you got to do it. But here's the CEO of Moderna basically crying his eyes out that he's going to throw away 30 million doses.
Sad to say, I'm in the process of throwing 30 million doses into the garbage because nobody wants them. We have a big demand problem. We right now have governments. We try to contact, not only Seth, who is doing great work with his team trying to get demand into the countries, but also we contacted through the embassies in Washington, every country, and nobody wants to take them. It's sad to say.
It's sad to say. It's sad to say. 30 million doses. I don't know what's going on. Like, we tried every country. We tried contacting them. Nobody's demanding them. I mean, Swedish and Nordic countries are, not allowing the vaccines for kids. I don't understand what's going on. It's almost like they're, this whole country, this whole world, people are just, looking at this scientifically and thinking critically, and after 2 years of this scramble, maybe they're actually questioning it. Oh my God, what is happening? How else are we supposed to get $64 billion off these people? I have to throw away all those doses because nobody's buying up the garbage. That was kind of my dramatic interpretation of that. But you get the picture. You get the picture of what's happening here. They're in a scramble. They're in a pandemic. They're in a pandemic within themselves because they're trying to still continue building this empire of the big pharmaceutical industry by promoting all these, vaccines and new booster shots and all this stuff. And like I said, things are changing. People have, either awakened from 2 years of this roller coaster that, started off as, it was all just a big lie. And they've been lying ever since. And people have been waking up to that fact. I've waken up to that fact. I, got 2 shots of the Pfizer. I got injured on my second shot. And I took a moment to look behind the page and read into it and do some research and talk to doctors and listen to what other specialists had to say about it. And I learned better. I learned what really was happening behind closed doors, and what was happening behind closed doors is not what they're telling you out in the open. They will never tell you exactly what's happening. And now they're crying about it like somehow this is all our fault. It's our fault that we're not believing enough. That we're not soaked into this. Here's also this. This is more closer to my area. So this is in Kitchener, Ontario. At least in my home country of Canada. Not really closer to me, but anyway. The said region sees low uptake in COVID-19 bivalent booster shots. So they're scrambling. Like, people are, oh my God, why are not people lining up to get jabbed another time? Why is this happening? Why exactly is this happening? We got to figure something out. We got to do something, because we got all these vaccines that are going to go to waste. All the millions of dollars that we try to invest into all the marketing for this is going to go to waste. We're not going to get our $64 billion quarter if we don't manipulate the general public. How are we going to do this? Well, it turns out CNBC may have figured out the way. And I love these little moments where you're watching mainstream media, or you're watching, something within the mainstream culture, and there's that little tiny, almost like a nugget of truth, that little tiny second where the tea is spilled, the word comes out, the cat's out of the bag, that little tiny second where they go, oops, I said the quiet part out loud. I love those little moments because you don't see that often. You don't see, especially coming from the establishment that has fundamentally lied for years and for decades and for God knows when. Like, that is the whole establishment complex, is that they lie and manipulate, and that's why they're trying to track down on misinformation, because they don't want the general public to figure out how they're lying and why they're lying. They just want the general public to endorse the lying. So CNBC may have figured this out, and this was on this is Jim Cramer here from CNBC. So for a fact that they did a genius part of saying the quiet part out loud on a show that nobody will watch. Unless you're the 0.0001% that actually do watch this show, that's your choice. I just don't have the fortune or the opportunity to watch any of this. I don't watch business networks. I don't, it's like when you watch celebrity poker. Like, if I don't have the money to play poker myself, am I really going to watch a multimillionaire celebrity playing poker? I just don't see that. But here's Jim Cramer, who kind of resembles, he kind of has the persona of Don Cherry of Wall Street. And you'll see why in a second. But here's Jim Cramer on the CNBC show talking about big pharmaceuticals and vaccines and exactly how they're trying to market this. And like I said, he accidentally says the quiet part out loud, and watch the co-anchors of this show kind of get frazzed about this. Take a listen.
And they got to deal with, what do you do if you told people the way to beat this is no vaccine, right, and now you have a vaccine? So I think what you need is a propagandist.
Outside of the state infrastructure.
Exactly.
To start moving.
So he said it blatantly out loud. You need a propagandist. You need someone to lie, manipulate, and mistrust people into falling into line to getting the vaccine. That's how you do it. That's how they done it. That's how we got to the first shots. They lied, they manipulated, they changed the culture of science and vaccines. They lied about the science, they lied about the virus, they lied about herd immunity, they lied about everything. They lied about everything, so you get manipulated to believing the propaganda and falling into the line, falling into their agenda of getting jabbed. And you don't even know really what the jab was doing. And all the information, all the science, all the data was either hidden away, or they lied and said that it was some sort of propaganda. You're an anti-vaxxer, you're this, you're that, you're the other. So let me play that again, because that was miraculous.
And they got to deal with, What do you do if you told people the way to beat this is no vaccine, and now you have a vaccine? So I think what you need is a propagandist.
I love what you just said. You just need a propagandist. What do you do when you have all these vaccines and nobody wants it, and you just need a propagandist? You know, instead of actually following the science, understanding the virus, and figuring out for yourselves, because, you know, doing your own research is apparently so terrible, even though as a kid, I was told that was the best thing you can do, is do your own research. If you want to find more about something in particular, you go and read. You go to the library. You go search it up. You go research it. You go investigate for yourself. That's how you grow as a person. That's how you evolve, and you have a better understanding. Knowledge is power, ladies and gentlemen. That is the common saying. Unfortunately, they don't want you to be knowledgeable. That's why they want propagandists. That's why they want, you know, this misinformation board, because they don't want people to be knowledgeable and understanding about all this. Because if people knew better, then you're seeing out in the open that demand is low. How are they going to sell vaccines? How are they going to, you know, get the public into the arms of the pharmaceutical industry? How are they going to do that? And listen to the co-anchor's response, because they're dead silent on this. They're trying to paint themselves out of this picture.
Outside of the state infrastructure.
Exactly.
To start moving political opinion.
But I think when we think of propaganda,
Well, but we gotta do it outside the state structure, because you don't want the government involved, because then people will believe that, you know, the government and Wall Street were actually involved in this, and we can't get ourselves into this. I mean, yes, they're using propaganda. You can see how uncomfortable he is. You can see how uncomfortable this is making him. That Jim Cramer, the Don Cherry of Wall Street, or at least the show that nobody's watching, just blatantly out in the open said we need a propagandist. They need a propagandist to sell all these vaccines. Well, I don't know. I mean, you're partially right, but you need out of the state structure, because then we might get blamed for it. I mean, the media may be involved in this scam. They might be bought out by the pharmaceuticals. Have you met our advertisers? Is this brought to you by Pfizer? I don't want to get involved in this. I just want to keep my job.
think about other regimes that we didn't really appreciate.
I don't know. Did you hear that? So Jim Cramer responds with, well, we didn't appreciate it like other regimes. We didn't appreciate the propaganda. That's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. That is the problem with all this. It's not the fact that we knew about this, we're knowing about the science, that they lied to us, that we figured out the lies. It's the fact that we lost faith with propaganda. Basically, Jim Cramer is trotting the line of we didn't trust the science. We didn't trust the science, which you don't trust science. That's nothing. You don't trust science. You question science. You grow from science. You evolve from science. You do analysis. You do fact check claims. You do your own tests and studies to prove the science. Do you know how many times they had to prove the theory of relativity before it came normalized? Do you know how many times they had to prove the theory of gravity? That's scientific data 101. And Jim Cramer's like, well, we didn't believe in the propaganda. We didn't believe in the science as much as other regimes. That's the problem here. People just have no faith in lies and manipulation. They don't trust us. I wonder why. Let me play that part again, because that was eye-opening.
Think about other regimes that we didn't really appreciate. Silent.
I am silent. I'm just thinking about those poor people stuck at Disney, Shanghai Disney for...
And then the other host is like, we gotta change the subject. I feel so devastated for the people stuck in Shanghai Disney right now. I don't want to talk about this, because then I get involved in, I got this nice cushy suit here. And show the numbers. Show the numbers. Get the graphics up. Come on. Go to commercial. Go to commercial. We can't do this. We can't do this. We can't mention about propaganda because then we'll be involved in the propaganda of COVID. Because then people might believe that CNBC and Fox Business and all the other mainstream outlets, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, all these outlets are part of this COVID conspiracy propaganda. We can't get ourselves involved with this. We can't do it. But leave it to Jim Cramer. Jim friggin' Cramer. This guy right here. Oh, that's a bad still shot. That is the face of craziness. And I don't know much about this guy. I've seen clips of him on other, comedy shows. And like I said, he personifies like a Don Cherry. Instead of talking about hockey, though, he's like crunching. He's like the fanboy of all the stock numbers. Like, he goes berserk over the craziness of this. And now he's saying they're soon tired. It's like, well, they got all these vaccines and they don't know what to do with it. So, we need another propagandist. We need another propaganda machine, just like we did in 2020, that people fell to it at first, but then woken up to it, and we gotta do that cycle all over again. And he just is out in the open, and the other anchors are just like, I can't be here. I want to get out of this. Where's the eject button? God, that's crazy. I mean, even look at the Chiron here. The lower third is even that is ridiculous. Unverified post of zero COVID exit plan targeting March 2023. Every single doctor I have heard, or medical researcher, or technologist that was responsible for the creation of the vaccine technology, you look at Dr. Robert Malone, you look at other physicians, you look at cardiologists, you look at, even people responsible for the distribution of the vaccines, they have all proven that there is no chance, not a single chance, there will ever be a zero COVID exit. That is why we went from a pandemic to an endemic. What exactly does that mean? That means that we live normal lives and COVID just exists the same way the flu just exists, and cough and cold and flu symptoms exist. So basically, we take it as is. We try to target to the most vulnerable, the most effective of the COVID strain, which is something we should have done in the first place. That's called the Barrington Declaration, that targeted towards certain individuals that were the most highly effective of, COVID and hospitalization and stuff like that. And we just try to live normal lives. We take precautions, we take the necessary risks, so on and so forth, but we live normal lives. We don't shut everything down. We don't take kids away from school. We don't lock everything up. We don't, segregate people from society. We don't allow people to socialize and gather and meet with family. We don't break up families. We don't break up relationships. Like, the amount of disaster the pandemic caused us as a society as a whole is downright insane. And what they're proposing, and what it seems like here, is they want to repeat that all over again. Because they're worried about all these other, variants that are coming out. They're worried about, we showed you there's a triple threat coming. The RSV, there's cough and cold and flu season is around the corner. We're experiencing people getting COVID and hospitalization and all this other stuff. So, literally what they're doing is painting a fantasy that there's just going to be no COVID. There's absolutely going to be no COVID if everybody gets vaccinated, if we try to propagandize more people, which is downright false. It is scientifically false. And how do I know this? Because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical physician. But I've seen the research. I looked into studies. I looked at Dr. Robert Malone, who invented the technology and said the same thing. People have been doing studies and pointing this out on a daily basis. And I've been trying to show this to people so that they get the full accurate picture of all the information. And they take all that information and they decide for themselves what they want to do. Whether they want to get vaccinated or they don't want to get vaccinated. That is what should have happened, ladies and gentlemen, is releasing all the data, releasing all the information, and then making that decision based on yourselves. Not having, Keith Olbermann scream at you, not having a bunch of, propagandists on the mainstream networks telling you have to do this, not having Noam Chomsky saying that you're going to kill half of society if you don't. Not, having Trudeau calling a bunch of truckers Nazis after praising them for, lasting through the pandemic. That is not helping your cause. That is adding fuel to the fire. That's why people are not trusting this. And you're not supposed to trust this. You're not supposed to trust the science. You're questioning the science. That's how it's supposed to go. And let me tell you, they're probably going to need a propagandist because, here's this. BioNTech's RSV vaccine gets FDA fast-track status. Remember when they did that with the other vaccines? They gave them emergency access. They gave them emergency push-through to make sure it got out to the general public right away without any tests, any analysis, any data supplying information that the vaccines are effective. Remember how they did that? They avoided all the hurdles and just fast-tracked it right to the open. It takes a vaccine almost 10 years to get out to the general public. Why? Because they have to do analysis, they have to do data, they have to do research, they have to prove to the FDA that these are effective for the people. Not with biotech, not with Pfizer, not with Moderna, not with all the COVID stuff. They just immediately bypassed all the hurdles. And then we became the test subjects. We're the ones doing the experimenting. We're the ones that are the lab rats and the guinea pigs. And just fast-tracking a experimental drug that's supposed to slow the transmission, according to the wonderful medical advice from YouTube. Slows the transmission, and recommend getting it. But like I said, I'm showing you all the information. Do as you will, because really it comes down to your decision. It comes based on your behalf. Whether you want it or not, or what, or how you stand on this, it comes down to personal decision, because no manipulation, no big pharmaceutical propaganda should demonize you otherwise. No matter what, creep-faced Jim Cramer says, or the CEO of Moderna crying his eyes out during an economic forum. It really just comes down to that.